The morning it all began, I had no idea my quiet retirement was about to turn into a full-blown battlefield, the kind of fight that makes ordinary homeowners question whether their so-called peaceful neighborhoods are actually fortresses of greed. I had been tending to my chickens, the familiar cluck and rustle of feathers filling the yard, when the mail truck rattled down the lane like any other day. But among the routine envelopes was a thick, heavy certified letter with gold-embossed lettering from the Sunset Hills Homeowners Association, the kind of fancy stationery meant to intimidate before you even open it. Inside was a $250,000 fine, claiming my fence was beyond property lines, my shed and gazebo unauthorized, and my vegetable garden encroaching on HOA green space. I'd lived here 30 years, raised a family, and watched this neighborhood bloom from dirt roads to manicured lawns, and now suddenly, these million-dollar mansion owners were accusing me of trespassing on land I'd owned long before they moved in. The audacity made my blood boil, but I'd spent a lifetime in construction and surveying. I knew when something smelled rotten, and this stunk worse than spoiled fertilizer. Within hours, Sophia Blackstone herself appeared, clicking across my gravel driveway in designer heels with 2 board members trailing behind, clipboard in hand like some ceremonial wand that could erase decades of history. She pointed at my fence, my chicken coop, my beloved gazebo, and my tomatoes as though they were evidence of some heinous crime, dismissing my 1973 property deeds with a wave of her manicured hand, insisting a modern survey proved I was trespassing. Yet neighbors like Betty Harris remembered my fence exactly as it had been for decades, a memory dismissed as confusion about new boundaries. When she threatened legal action and forced sale, most people my age might have cowered, but not me. My instincts screamed fraud. Something was off about that 2010 survey, filed 5 years after the mansions were built, and with the kind of professional suspicion that comes from a career of measuring and marking land, I called my old friend Jim Patterson, a seasoned property attorney, who immediately urged an independent survey. That night, I dug out my old surveying tools, GPS units, metal detectors, measuring stakes, and began preliminary measurements. What I found electrified me. Not only was my fence exactly where it belonged, but buried survey stakes suggested my land extended well beyond my fence lines, into territory where these opulent homes now stood. Within a day, Jake Miller, the best independent surveyor in 3 counties, was on board, and together we embarked on a 3-week investigation using GPS base stations, laser equipment, and ground-penetrating radar. Each day revealed more jaw-dropping truths. Sophia's infinity pool and tennis courts sat entirely on my property. Nathan Cross's circular driveway and massive garage were mine. Elena Foster's sprawling master bedroom wing and enormous walk-in closet encroached onto my land, and Jackson Murphy's outdoor kitchen and Bethany Wells' decorative fountain were built without my consent on land I had inherited. Every discovery was documented with precision photography and GPS coordinates, and as the evidence accumulated, it became clear this wasn't accidental. It was a coordinated land grab, carefully hidden behind fraudulent surveys and buried boundary markers. The 2010 survey, supposedly legal, turned out to be a complete fabrication. The company had gone out of business 2 years prior, and the signatures didn't match any licensed surveyors. Betty Harris confirmed she'd watched crews moving my fence markers during construction, under the guise of updating boundaries for the development. The more we uncovered, the more I realized this was far bigger than a single dispute. It was a deliberate scheme that had preyed on elderly landowners for over a decade. When Sophia tried to sweet-talk Jake, she was met with polite but firm professional boundaries, and as the word spread, neighbors began taking notice, some recalling suspicious events from the mansion construction, others shaking their heads at the audacity of the HOA's actions. Finally, the HOA called an emergency meeting at the community center, expecting to intimidate me and turn the neighborhood against me, but I arrived prepared with Jake, our GPS unit, and a presentation that would strip away every lie they had tried to hide behind. As the meeting began, Sophia and her board painted me as a confused old man, citing my rooster, garden, and shed as nuisances. But when I took the stage, set up the GPS unit, and displayed drone images overlaid with precise red boundary lines, the room went silent. Those lines cut through swimming pools, garages, bedrooms, and gardens, proving definitively that every lavish addition was on my land. I calmly explained each measurement, each stake, each deed-backed coordinate, while Jake verified the GPS methodology, and the fake 2010 survey was revealed as a deliberate forgery. Betty and longtime residents provided eyewitness testimony confirming what the evidence showed. Panic rippled through the board, Sophia's confident smirk disappearing as she realized the empire she had built on stolen land was crumbling in front of her. Over the following months, we engaged in a legal battle that would test patience, finances, and resolve. Sophia's lawyers attempted every tactic, filing counterclaims of fraud, elder abuse, and harassment, questioning GPS reliability, and even disputing decades-old deeds, but modern surveying technology and meticulously documented evidence proved insurmountable. Settlement offers ballooned from $50,000 to $2 million, all of which I refused, because this was never about money, it was about principle and defending what my family had legally owned for generations. Media coverage turned the case into a regional sensation, and other homeowners began reaching out with their own HOA horror stories, inspired by our stand. When the trial finally began, Judge Margaret Chen, experienced in property law, presided, and both sides presented their cases. Sophia's team tried to argue practical use and assumed ownership, but my attorney Jane Mitchell and Jake's expert testimony demonstrated the irrefutable precision of GPS measurements matched to historical deeds. The forged 2010 survey and witness accounts left no room for doubt. After days of deliberation, the jury ruled in my favor, confirming ownership of the disputed property and establishing GPS surveying as a legal gold standard in boundary disputes. The ruling forced each mansion owner to either pay ongoing rent for using my land or remove the encroaching structures, and compensation began flowing to me, including monthly payments from Sophia herself for her pool. The aftermath transformed the neighborhood. Tenants became cooperative, Betty Harris became an invaluable property manager, and a sense of fairness replaced intimidation. I used the victory to improve my retirement lifestyle, fund scholarships for surveying students, and educate the community about property rights and modern surveying. Even Sophia, humbled by the experience, learned the limits of wealth when faced with truth. Over time, annual GPS verification became a communal event. Younger homeowners began taking property boundaries seriously, and the story of one determined retired surveyor who refused to be bullied became a cautionary and inspiring tale nationwide. From an outrageous $250,000 fine to controlling the narrative and collecting rent from millionaires, the story isn't just about land, it's about standing up, using experience and evidence, and proving that age, wisdom, and courage can overcome greed and intimidation. The rooster still crows every morning over every inch of my 8 acres, every pool and garage properly accounted for, and every wealthy neighbor reminded that property lines don't bend for anyone, and that a determined old man can turn the tables in ways no one expects, leaving the question lingering in everyone's mind. If one person can do this, how many other neighborhoods hide similar truths waiting to be uncovered?